So we're going to look at exploring fees. Um, First, I want to um, show two resources. Remember, if you are going to look at these resources, they are in the Learning Center, and you do have to be signed into Progress Book / student information in order to be able to click on any of these links. So if you are not currently signed in, to click on these links. It will give you a purple sign-in page that will not take your credentials. So make sure you are signed in first. With that being said, I do want to show you the Learning Center. So you are going to see I'm going to be in and out of this slideshow just to make sure you know where all these things that I am talking about are at in student information. So first, if we look at our Learning Center, so that is your question mark up here. Please make sure you guys use this. This is a great tool. So if I go to the Learning Center, the two resources, and they are very similar. One's just a condensed version of the actual guide. So if I go to student information, one of them is the procedural checklist. And if I go under students, and then I have fees. So this is kind of the short and sweet checklist to make sure you have everything set for fees. And the appendix is very helpful for troubleshooting. If you're wondering why a student is getting a fee, a lot of times it is based on schedule changes. So that is your Appendix A. The other is the long version, which is the actual fee guide. So I am going to go back to student information, and there is a whole section on fees. So if I go to the fees overview, you will see right at the top is the full PDF, the fees guide. So that is, I think, 90 some pages. So, I mean, that's the whole kit and caboodle about fees. So we are going to look at some things that are not in either of those guides. These are just tips that I want to share to make sure you guys are aware of. So back to our presentation here.
Shelley, looks like Melissa Sparks. Sorry, she's not hearing you. So she tested her volume. I didn't want her to miss anything if she'd still.
So there are 5 different types of fees. We're going to look at each of these. By this time in the school year, you probably have most of these applied. Um, so their general fees, those are typically assigned to, those are our grade level students typically. So, if you have third grade supply fees, or you have, class fees for the high school level, you're typically applying those to a specific grade level. Course fees, those are going to a specific course and or section. Um, so for example, you might have language arts classes, and maybe one of them you have gifted students, and they're going to read an extra book compared to everybody else. So maybe just that one section is going to have a fee for that book where everybody else is not going to have a fee. So again, it could be for a specific course, or it could be for a course section. Next is our memberships. So our memberships are our membership groups that we have set up in student information. And I put the breadcrumb trail in there, and we're going to look at each of these. But your memberships, so that might be for sports. That might be for certain clubs, activities that the students are. So with that being said, you can apply those fees. I know where my kids go to school, there's a pay to participate fee. So every sport that they're in, that would get applied to that sport. Those are your membership fees. Program fees, this would affect our career centers. So these would be things such as, there might be a lab fee. for certain classes, there might be for cosmetology, things like that. So those would be the programs that you have within your building. Our traditional high schools typically don't use this. You might have it for something random, like if there's example, something like that. But typically, our traditional schools don't have that. And then our miscellaneous fees. This is when a fee doesn't apply to those last four things that I talked about. So it might be a broken Chromebook that's been popular, some type of technology fee, parking passes, a handout, handbooks, agendas, things like that. The miscellaneous fee is the only fee that can be adjusted when you are assigning it, whether you're bulk assigning the fee or you're individually assigning a miscellaneous fee towards a student. So again, when we get into that, I'll show you how you can set that up and then you can adjust the fee on the fly as you're assigning it to a student or a group of students. So a few tips, tricks, things that I wanted to share. Um, Fees are school year specific. So you can make changes or add different codes in future and or past school years. So once we run SYI, which will happen January, February, I haven't started registering for that yet, but once we start have SYI, all the fees will carry up and then you can start making adjustments. So maybe your agenda book went from $5 and next year it is going to be $7. So you can start working with those as soon as SYI happens. Um, when you have an amount that is under $1, it does need to have the leading zero, or you will get an error when you're trying to enter it. So if you're charging a student 75 cents, it needs to be 0.75 to eliminate that error. When you're working with fees, especially during the summer, we typically assign them to the students right before school starts or after school starts. If you start assigning them or working with the fees during the summer and you're working with schedule changes, that's going to affect different things. So typically, and by this point in time, you probably have all of your fees assigned, but we don't want to be assigning them, in mid-June because of all those schedule changes that are going to happen over the summer. Um, and we also want to make sure that it is within the current school year. So when you're assigning the fees, that it has the start date of the current school year, not a previous school year. Um, and I'll show you where to turn that on and off as well. And then our primary contacts are the only one that sees fees in parent access. I do get tickets on this that, dad is not seeing fees on parent access. Well, dad's not the primary contact, so he is not able to see those fees. And then the last thing on this one is that you can remove report cards from parent access for students with unpaid fees. So I know a lot of people are not printing report cards anymore. So you're thinking, well, how can we get them to pay their fees? They see their current grades and so forth. Well, if they need that actual report card, you can withhold that from them on parent access. So I'm going to show you these two things in parent access. Then we're going to jump back in here for a few more tips. So if I am looking at as a parent, so I'm in parent access. So I have this view paper report card over here. Hold on, let me refresh my screen. Oh, I'm on the wrong student. I'm sorry. And if you don't know how to view parent access, for those of you that have the principal page, you have view parent student progress through parent access. So you can view what the parents and or students see. So if I pull up my student, okay, I have report cards here. So if I look at my report cards, up here is the paper copy of the report card as long as you are scheduling them. So once they are scheduled or finalized in the elementary world, if I click on that, it's going to populate the PDF of the report card. I can change that so it is not available. So if I go in student information under management, district administration, and my district options. Some of you might not have access to this, but if you do, in here, oops, let me switch to the district level. Here is the option for report cards to disable the report cards on parent access for unpaid fees. So Mickey has unpaid fees. So if I check that and I hit save, I'm going to preview his parent access account again. And if I go to report cards, you can now see those links are gone. So they no longer have the option to see the current report card or any previous report cards. Can they still see the current grades? Yes, they can still see the current grades, but that's not the report card grade. So the second thing, I'm going to turn that back off and that will repopulate when I refresh my screen. The second thing are the fees. So parents, like I said, the primary contact, the parent can see the fee and or previous years. You can tell this is our demo student, so he's got a lot of fees. Only that primary contact. So if I have Mickey Mouse in context, this is the first thing to check if you have a parent saying they cannot see fees. It'll just, it will not be, it'll say there are no fees to display. So when I go into Mickey's contacts, only this person that has the primary contact star is the only person that will see it in parent access. So if dad is calling, or in this case, mom is calling and saying, I can't see Mickey's fees, it's because mom is not the primary contact. Okay, jumping back in, few more tips. So a lot of your fees and your fee reports, you can pull up with ad hoc memberships, and you can also assign fees through an ad hoc membership. So, if you have a certain group, maybe academic challenge, you've created an ad hoc group for those kids, you can assign a fee just to those kids as well. So it is important to have those memberships. Now, remember, if they already have a membership code applied to them, such as athletics, you don't necessarily have to make that ad hoc membership. Use your advanced search. You can search for the fee alerts and several things in easy query. So I'm going to jump out of here and show you those three things. So looking at our ad hoc memberships. So if I'm in my account, my ad hoc memberships, this is where you can create groups of students. So I have one for, the class of 2025. But if I'm assigning a general fee, I can do that to an entire grade level. So I wouldn't have to specifically make an ad hoc membership. But if you have an ad hoc membership for maybe students that drive and you want to add a parking pass to just those kids, you can create a new ad hoc membership. So you can name it. If this is for my students that have parking permits, just so we have a list of those, and then I can start searching for my students. We'll just do some of the dwarf kids. Okay, so if these kids are driving, I can select them. I can keep going through. If I have additional information that I want to pull through, now I have that parking permit, so I have that ad hoc that I can apply fees to. Okay, and when we start applying it, you'll see how I can add it directly to that ad hoc group. Okay, so our other one is using the advanced search. So if I click on my advanced search, I can search for fees. So that is one of our alert types. So if you see Mickey in context, you will see this is our alert um, for fees. If I click on that, that does take me directly to his open fees screen. But I can also search for any student that has that fee alert applied. And you'll notice that all the other alerts are on here as well. So if I hit search, why are no students found?
You're at the district level?
Oh, thank you. I switched for the options. Thank you. I'm like, I'm looking at Mickey and I see that he has fees. And that's a good reminder, and I said this right at the beginning, it is school year specific as well as building specific. So I know there's multiple people on here from the same district, but you might be in different buildings, and you can each have your own fee schedules set up. So here is my list of students that have fees showing that fee alert. And again, from this screen, I can click directly on the fee and oh, nope, I can click here and it'll take me to that student's open fee screen. So now I can see any fees that have been applied to Mickey. Okay. Another option is our easy query. So there's two things in easy query that are helpful. One is our easy student. So if I go to easy student and student fees, let me take Mickey out of context here. So if I do the student and the student fees, it's going to ask me for my student number. So you can either put in the number or a student name. Once I click on it, it will take me to that open fees screen. So again, you can, if you have a student in context, you can click on the icon, which will take you directly to the screen. Or if you don't have a student in context, you can use that easy query student fee screen. Also in easy query, your system, and this is helpful if you are using the prorated tables because you can see who is on free and reduced lunch by using the SIS student search, because those kids will get reduced or they'll get waivers for some of their fees. So if you want to see a list of those students, you can run one of these reports. So again, here is an area where I can run with an ad hoc report if I want to. But I'm going to skip, actually, we'll do student's first name, we'll do last name. I'm going to do this very simple. We'll do building grade, and so on the FD tab, you have your disadvantagement and or your free and reduced. So if I want to see my free and reduced status for my kids, because I want to see what kids are going to have a waiver for my reduced. So I am going to download this. Give it 1 second. So now excuse me. Now I have a list of my students that I can filter and use all my Excel settings. So if I want to see who has a free and reduced, so I just want to see who's free and who's reduced. I'm going to remove my none. Now I have a list of those kids. So I know my free kids are going to have a complete waiver for their fees, and my reduced, based on what my settings are, they will have that reduced waiver. Okay. So a few last things, and this is just reference. I'm not going to open this back up, but some reports. So some common reports. One thing is our R700. If you run that at the beginning of the school year, because you want to get schedules out to the students. You might want to run this with the fees. So the format 6 is the most popular because it does populate the fees on there. Just be aware, make note, these are projected fees. These aren't the actual fees for the students. So if the student is 10th grade, it's going to project a general fee, whatever that 10th grade general fee is. It will not show membership fees. So if that student is in cross country, it says starts in the summer sports and or football, it's not going to have those membership fees on the form. The R109 is the student fee detail report. This is going to show all the details for all your students. So very helpful to look at things to make sure things are right. And then the 111 is payments from the students. So again, a nice way to check and make sure checks and balances, making sure that you have everything. The R108C is commonly used for a receipt. So if a student comes in and makes a payment, this is a nice way that you can print them out for a individual student, and it'll show the fees that they had, the money that's been applied, and so forth. So let's jump in. And again, you guys have access to those. So those are just my little tips for you. So we're going to look at a few things first with our student information options. So if we are in school administration and student information options, there is a fees tab. So typically your uses fees, and mine is off because we do so many changes in with scheduling changes and so forth within the system. So yours is probably on. As soon as you check it, it does automatically default and has fees assigned is also checked. This should be checked at this point in time throughout the year. If students are coming into the district, it's automatically going to apply their fees upon enrollment. It will also apply course fees if they are enrolled in a course that has a fee. So it is important to have that checked once the school year starts. Prior to the school year starting, during the summer, when there's all kinds of schedule changes, things like that, you would not want this checked because you're making all those adjustments to the schedule, and then the fees get added, and it can be a mess. So typically right before school starts or right after, you would check that box to make sure the uses fees is on. You can still do bulk assigning of student fees with this off. So if you're working on this, 2 days before school starts and you want to bulk assign, you're more than welcome to still bulk assign. It will still apply it to those students. This will just be once school starts and you get new students in and so forth. It applies those fees to those students and also works with the proration tables. So once that is on, again, you would have that on. Here's our other option on this screen is if a student is on reduced from the FD tab, how much are their fees going to be reduced? So in this case, I have them reduced half. So you would have that filled in there. What are you going to reduce it for? So the general fee, you can reduce it for general fee, course fee. Most of us do not have a program fee, except for my career centers, and I know we have career center on here, so you would probably have the program fee checked and any membership fees. So this would reduce those by 50% for a student that it has the reduced flag. You cannot reduce miscellaneous because if you remember, I said miscellaneous was the only one that you can adjust those fees on the fly when you're working with it. You can create the amount that you want. Okay. And then if you want to show fees from previous years, you can check that. It would be on by default, but you can also check and uncheck that right from the student's open fee screen. Okay, we are going to go into I don't know if anybody uses this. I'm just going to bring it up quickly so you guys can see it because some of these might have been presets and they carry over with SYI. So just want to make you aware of these. Again, these are building specific. So you can see these are, you have your accounting codes and you might have an account number here. So again, I don't know who uses these, who doesn't use these, if they are maintained or not maintained. Just one thing that I do want to share is the accounting code here. This first column can only have up to 8 characters. So if you are using these or if you're wondering why some of these are really short, um, that is why. So they can only have up to the 8 characters. So this is not required, but it is highly suggested is to have a prorated fee schedule. So these tables say basically if a student adds a class or withdraws from a class, how much money are you going to refund the student? Are you going to refund them some? Are you going to refund them all or none? Same if a student enrolls midway through the school year, how much of the fees are going to apply to them? Are you going to charge them the full class fee if they're only there for fourth 9 weeks? Um, so if you don't have these set up, that might be something that you want to have set up for next school year. But a couple things when you are looking at the setup and a student drops a course, the fee will not be dropped. Okay, so these tables say, hey, if I drop an advanced chemistry class, what's going to happen if there is a course fee to it? So if I'm using the main one, so you can see this is broken down into days. So general fees and program fees are based off the days of the master calendar. And then your course fees are based off the course term dates. So, if you have a first semester or a second semester, it's going to go by the number of dates with the course term. Okay. So if you look at one of these, so for example, this is kind of broken down into certain areas. So within, if they drop within the first month, they're going to get 100% back. Whereas if they drop towards the end of the school year, they're going to get 0% back. Um, in this case, if they drop this a course that has this prorated table with it, they would get 100% back. In this case, if they withdraw, they're going to get 0 back. So, for example, maybe an art class, there's an art fee to buy the supplies prior to school starting. They started the class, they don't like it, but they're not going to get a refund. So, looking at these, if I click on the little pencil, you would give it your uh, prorated name, and then you can give it a longer name. So the code is going to be shorter, where the schedule name is going to give you that description. And then you would have, and notice in here it is start and stop date, but then on the table itself it says how many days and what rate the proration is going to be. So you are going to be entering those dates, and then it will automatically adjust and say how many days it is. You have to have at least one detail line in a proration table. Okay. Next is looking and setting up the different fees. Again, these do carry over with SYI, but you can start working on them once SYI is ran for your building. And remember, SYI is building specific, and we will start those trainings mid January and they go through the beginning of February. And then you can start working with fees. So if I click on my course fee, these are any courses that have a fee associated with them. So our main one that we are going to look at is our English 12 class. They have a workbook that on admission, here is my prorated table. So that will be applied if a student joins late, and then if they withdraw, what is going to happen? So it's applying the WD code. If I click on the little pencil, this is where I would set it up. So what section it is, or I'm sorry, what course, If I need a section, I can click on the three little dots and I can pull up an individual section. So, for example, if this was my gifted kids and they're reading that extra book and I want to charge them a fee, I can click on that and that will just assign it to that section. What it is for, so what the fee code you're going to use, it will not allow you to reuse codes. So even if a fee is, course fee is inactive, it will not allow you to reuse the same code. And then the fee amount. And then here is where I add that prorated fee schedule. So this was for the workbook, and then if they get a refund or not. So our workbook was they automatically get charged, and then if they withdraw, there was no refund because they had to already purchase that book. Okay, back to then we have our general fees. Okay, so we looked at course fees, our general fees. So this is where you can apply like class fees. So, a lot of times at the elementary level, we have supply fees for each of the grade levels. High school level, we have, class dues that are, might be different every year and so forth. You might also have every student might have a tech fee or, every student's required to have an agenda, something like that. So these would be fees that you would apply to a building or a group within that building. Um, so if I look at one of my general fees, okay, what the fee is going to be coded if there is for a specific grade level. So this is an optional field. It does not have to go towards a grade level. So if this is a technology fee and it's going to all students, you can leave that blank and it will go to those students. If there's a fee for gender, so maybe if for a phys ed class, maybe it's gender specific, you can apply it just to a specific gender. And then your description, this is where you can make it something usable that helps you know what this fee is for, and then what the fee amount is. If there is a prorated fee schedule, those can be applied here as well. And then if you are using those accounting codes, that would be picked here as well. Okay. Program fees, I'm going to look at this one really quick. I do have examples in here. I believe our career center is on here. They might have had to jump off. But this would be for mostly our career centers. So if you look at this, this would be some of, if your labs, things like that, you would have a fee for those. You can apply those to those actual programs. So in this case, I have one for marching band students. So this would be my freshman marching band. Kind of the same setup as a general fee. You can pick your code and then but you do have to set up what program it applies to. So, and if it was for, a specific grade level, so in this case, if I wanted it only for my freshmen, I can apply it just to the freshmen and then what amount those that would be. So, if you have programs, you would have to set those up separately or first so you can select those programs. Okay. And if I just type in so you can create your program codes here. So it whatever you might have at the career center, whichever lab. So if each of, the classes have some type of lab, you can create those program codes here. Next is our memberships. So these memberships are preset. So once you have your memberships created, you can apply fees to them. So if I look at my membership fees, you can see I have a few here. So for example, I have one for swimming for a pay to participate, $110. My daughter just started yesterday, so that made me think of that. So if I look at this, I can modify it. So here's my fee code, the description, and then I am actually going to pick the membership group. Once I pick the membership group, then it will automatically populate what memberships I have for my options. Okay, so in this case, I picked a 42, which is our athletics, and then you can see all of those populated in here. If it's for a specific grade level or gender, that can also be applied here as well. So let's look at our membership maintenance. So these are all the different memberships that are already set up. These do carry over year. So if there is something not in here, you would want to make sure it is in here first before you can apply that membership fee to that group because it has to be membership group has to be predefined first. Membership fees cannot be prorated. And also make note that if you are adding a group of students to a membership, so if you're bulk assigning them to say um, the swim, so you're bulk assigning, you know, 20 students to the swim team because they're going to have a pay to participate fee. Once you bulk assign them to the membership group, you separately have to go in and add the fee. Once you apply the membership, it doesn't automatically apply the fee. You still have to apply it. So it's a two-step process if you're applying that membership to a group of students. So if we go back, our last one is our miscellaneous fee, and this is the one that can be um, adjusted as needed. So if we look at our membership fees, some of them might be set amounts. So, for example, seniors, they're going to get cap and gowns. So that doesn't fit into any other area. So we're going to put it as miscellaneous. You'll see it has a $35 fee. But a book that's lost from the library, or maybe a damaged book, maybe it's damaged equipment, damaged Chromebook, you'll see that I have a dollar. So even though I have these fees listed here, when I am assigning a miscellaneous fee, I can change it. So for example, if I'm assigning this to one student and they lost a book that was worth $25, I can make that worth $25. Another student lost a book, but it was a paperback book and it was only worth $11. So that student will get the miscellaneous fee of $11 because I can adjust that as we go. So let's start looking at fees and applying these fees to our students. So one way is to bulk assign them. So if I want to bulk assign them, it's called the student fee assignment. You'll hear people say bulk assign. So bulk assign fees is the student fee assignment. So it's kind of the same thing. One thing you do have to know is when you're bulk assigning, schedules have to be finalized. So if you're trying to do this, 2 weeks before school starts and schedules aren't finalized, it's not assign any course fees. So just be aware of that. Schedules do have to be finalized first. Okay, so here is where you can pick that ad hoc group. So if you are adding a parking permit fee to the group of students that drive to school, here it is, and I can apply that fee to just those students. Or if you don't use an ad hoc membership, you can just leave it blank, or you can search for a specific group of kids. So for example, maybe if I wanted to apply fees just to 12th grade. So we're going to work with our 12th graders today. I want my active students and I'm going to do my JVS in this case in the demo and my non-residents. You can apply it by gender as well from here. You can apply it by homeroom. So certain things that you can pick from the search criteria. We're just going to go with our 12th grade. If you don't pick a student status, it will apply a general fee to all 12th graders, including those that are residents attending elsewhere, non-active, etc. So make sure you are pulling over your student status codes. If I click on next, it is going to say, hey, what do you want to do? So what do you want to apply? So, first, this date is important. So, the fee date needs to be within the school year. So, if you are trying to bulk assign this 2 days before school starts, one, the schedule does have to be finalized. Two, you will have to change the fee date to make sure that it is the first day of school, or it will not apply any of these fees. So, you can use the calendar wizard to take you to that first day of school. Again, it will go by the master calendar for my general fees, things like that. Any course fees go by the course term dates. Okay, so just be aware of that. Generally, when we run this, you are running it with skip fees if already assigned. So what this does is it reduces it. It does not duplicate. So if the student already has a general fee assigned to them, it will not apply it again. So you can run this, maybe 2 days before school starts, and then you run it the day after school starts to make sure that you have it applied to all kids. So before I go on, I am just going to talk a little bit about each of these. I'm not going to run through each of those with 15 minutes left, but I do want to make sure that you are aware of these. So the next one is the replace fee assignments. If a fee definition has changed, this does not work for put in that individual fee for that student or group of students. So it does not apply to that. Create adjustment waivers if the fee definition has changed. So if anything has changed, um, you can apply this and it creates those fee waivers for that. It will not adjust um, any miscellaneous fees for this because you cannot apply any waivers to those miscellaneous fees. So just be aware of that. This one you should not use. And I've even when I was doing my trainings and stuff, they're not sure why it's still there. Because if you say ignore the existing assignments, it's going to duplicate everything. So it tells you that it's going to duplicate. So I don't know why you would want to duplicate general fees, things like that. So typically we don't use this one. Um, Reset fees is a common one. So if you added a membership fee to say um, the swim team and it was the pay to participate and you're like, oops, I wasn't supposed to do that. We're not doing pay to participate for this season. So you can go through and you can rerun it for the membership fee and say reset and it will remove those assignments as long as a payment has not been applied. If a payment or a waiver has been applied, it will skip over those. It will not remove it. Okay, so be aware of that. And then we are going to talk about this one, um, applying all waivers. So you can do this throughout the year. What this does is if a student has changed on their FD tab, so if they've changed from none for free and reduced to maybe reduced or to free, this will apply the waivers for that group of kids. So that's an important one. We're going to go through the first one and we're going to go through the last one. So if I click on next, okay, so for my course terms, this options screen is going to be different for each assignment that you run, general, um, course fees, membership fees, and so forth. So in this case, if I'm going to do all of them. So my semester classes and or my all year classes. And then your confirmation is going to just say, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is the date. Always double check your date to make sure it's within the school year. There's going to be 6 general fees that are going to apply to these students. There's going to be 18 course fees. I did not have any miscellaneous program or membership fees. And there's going to be 49 students total that And you can see one student had existing fees. So that's my Mickey Mouse. So we'll look at that. So you can see here, the following assignment could not be made. Mickey already had a general fee of $20, so it's telling me that it's already been assigned. If I look here, the following fee assignments were made, it's going to show me what was applied. So a general fee, and then I have course fees as well. And then for all these students, this was applied to all of them. Okay. So if I go back through this again, or if I look at any of my students,
Hey, Shelley,
yes,
I just want to point out, it's nice to see in that last column that the fee was reduced. So your free and reduced people are, it's easy to identify.
yes. So, yep, we're going to get there.
Oh, sorry.
So we're going to go through a couple of these kids. So yes, our first kid is Ben. So you can see he has free marked. So, and if you remember, I pulled up that spreadsheet earlier. So any of my kids on the spreadsheet that have free, all of their fees are going to be waived. So that's why I thought this spreadsheet, it can be helpful because you can double check to make sure that those kids' fees are waived. The other one are my reduced kids. So if I look at my reduced kids here, so my 12th graders, so if I look at Doc, he should be reduced. So now you can see that his general fee, because remember on the student information options, we had it set at 0.5, which is half. So his fee was $20, and now it's been reduced to $10 because of the waiver. So if we look at Doc Dwarf, that's not a good sign. That's telling me I have 10 minutes to go. Let's try this again. So if I look at Doc, and I can just click on the fee right here. So you can see all the fees, and then it'll say what the fee is, and then the amount paid, which is the waiver, and then what is still owed. If I go to the details, so I want to view the student details, then you can see here's his general fee, what the amount was, and what his balance is. And on today, November, waiver was applied of $10. So that's why it's important to have those set in there. So now I'm going to rerun this because we have a student. Um, sorry, I was looking at which student I was picking this time. So Skip. So skipped over. We missed him. So if I look at his profile, and I'm going to look on his FD tab. Okay. I missed him. He's supposed to be on reduced. Okay. And he's not. So I would have to add my new attribute. So whatever the effective start date is, I'm just going to say it was November 1st. You would typically have your disadvantagement, and then I would say he's reduced. Okay. So now, once I save that, you'll see the new is applied. Okay. If I go to his fees, you can see he still owes the full amount. So you can see all the fees that have been applied to Skip here. But now if I go back through and run my bulk student fees, this time what I'm going to do, I'm still going to keep it as my 12th graders. I'm going to keep my general fee, my course fees, but now I'm going to say apply all the waivers. Okay. So what it's going to do is look to it. Basically, that's what it does is it looks to see if that FD tab has changed, and then it's going to apply anything that exists. So once I hit finish, okay. So most of these, it's nothing's been done because the fee could not be waived. So it's just looking at that FD tab. If they're set to none, there's no waivers. If anybody has changed, okay, activity already exists for this person because they already had a waiver. Um, did I skip over? Oh, there's skip. Oh, that one did not qualify because it was, you can't go less than that. Um, but you can see, so it's going to show you what's been done. Sorry. Now you can see here, this has been applied. So skip here, um, waived. The fee was waived, okay, because I switched him to reduced. So now let's go back and look at skip. So if I go to his fee screen, you can see, and that's the one that could not be applied because you can't go less than a penny, but you can see everything's been reduced by half because he was on that reduced schedule. So again, it is important to run that apply all waivers periodically if students are switching their disadvantagement and going from none to reduced or to free. Okay, a few other things, and I'm running out of time. If we look at a student, so let me pull up a student in context here. So several things that we can do here. So one, looking at the student, um, so total fees, $130. They've made a payment of 40. They still owe 90. But if we look at the individuals here, they applied $30 towards a general fee, so there's an extra amount. So pay to participate is 100, which allows them, or they still owe $90. If I look at the fee details, it's going to say, okay, student brought in cash on this day, it was applied, and then a check was brought in on this day, giving them that $10 credit. We're going to look at students needing adjustment here in a minute, but let's look at some of our options over here on the I want to. So if you want to add an individual fee, and I'm going to do this for the individual, but you can also do this, the bulk assign fees or the student fee assignment. So if I want to add a fee to the student, my fee assignment type, I'm going to do miscellaneous. So again, this is the only one that you can change as you are working. So if I choose something like cap and gown, it's going to default to that amount that I put when I created that fee. But remember, I created the lost book from the library. So if I add a lost book, now I can put in the title. And then it defaults to that $1, but I can adjust it. So this was a paperback, so it was $11. So I can type that in, and when the fee is going to be applied and hit save. I have a miscellaneous fee for a book. It's lost from the library and it is $11. You can apply multiple miscellaneous fees to a student. So if they lost another book or they damaged their Chromebook, so if I need to add another miscellaneous fee, maybe they lost their charger for their Chromebook, so that might be a different fee than if they cracked their screen. So with the miscellaneous, I can say, we'll call it breakage. It defaults to the $5, but we can say lost cable, and then that's worth $25. And you can see I have multiple miscellaneous fees here. Okay. A couple other things under the I want to, you can apply a payment. So if the student is making the payment in full, it will automatically allocate those payments to equal payments for what the amount was. If the student is not making the exact payment, whether it's over or it's under, you do have to allocate each amount. So for example, if he brought in $100, I would hit go. You'll see it wipes out the amount on the side. Now I have to put in where this $100 is going. Is it going just towards basketball or is it going towards the breakage, etc.? You have to put the amount in until the payment amount remaining goes to zero. Once that's at zero, then you can make your payment. If it's over, so the student is over, same concept. I have to allocate it, but I have to apply that extra money somewhere. So for example, I just might put 150 here. So as long as this is saying zero, it will allow me to make the payment. So just be aware of that. Over or under, you have to allocate. If it is the exact amount, it will fill this column in for you. So then if you do have an overpayment, something like that, you can look at students needing adjustments. So if I go to my students needing adjustments, so it's under SIS and fees, you can see right here, I have a student that needs adjusted because he overpaid $10. So in that case, if I go into my student, I can transfer this payment. So actually transfer it. So if I click on transfer payment, you can see it's saying, okay, I have $10. Where do I want this $10 to go? I'm going to apply it towards my pay to play and then process my transfer. And then you can see here now I have a payment. I no longer have that credit, but now I have that payment of $10 that's been applied to my pay to play. If I go back into my student fees and oh, wrong one. My students needing adjusted, that should have cleaned that screen up because there's no longer that credit for that student. Okay. I am going to stop there. Do we have any questions? Questions in the chat? Anybody that wants to unmute? We pause it. A lot of reports that you can run from if you go into SIS fees and fee reports. These are the ones that are probably the most popular. The R700 would be at the beginning of the year for the fee schedule, and then fee details and fee payments. And then, like I said, a lot of people use the 108C for a receipt. So if you want to give the student a receipt of a payment, that's a good one to run. If there's no questions, you guys have a great day and hopefully you picked up a tip or a trick from fees.